Welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I'm your host, Anna Gray. The best thing about being a nurse and entrepreneur over the last 25 years are the relationships I've developed and the people I've met. As a legal nurse consultant, I wanted you to hear from those amazing people in the legal and healthcare communities. I wanted you to hear who they are and to celebrate them with me. Get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered. Let's dive into the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I'm really super excited to talk to my guest today, Randy. Randy, thank you so much for being here. There are quite a few reasons why I'm excited to talk to you, but I really appreciate you spending your time chatting with us. This is going to be a really fun conversation.
Absolutely. I'm super excited too. I'm so proud of what you've done with the podcast and how many people's lives you're impacting. And it's my honor to be a guest.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay, Randy, let's get started here. So tell us where you're coming from currently.
Yeah, like how far back you want to go?
No, currently, let's just tell us where you're coming from, where you're sitting right now, and then we're going to go back in time.
Okay, so where I'm sitting right now is I am a nurse, 26 years, happily married guy, and have an 11-year-old little girl. My wife is also a nurse of 21 years. I am currently running a successful legal nurse consulting firm and a coaching and mentoring firm where I put most of my time. My wife is actually putting most of her time. She quit her job years ago and started helping me run the legal nurse consulting firm, so I could focus on training and mentoring nurses to become legal nurses. And then I also have another company that's a software system for legal nurses that's all in one. So that's where most of my time is going now. I'm also doing some teaching and speaking and conferences and that sort of thing.
Yeah, okay. And where in the country are you?
I am in northern Arizona. Everybody hears Arizona, They think hot desert. Yeah, we're up north, Sedona, Arizona. So It's actually, kind of chilly up here right now.
Yeah, I know exactly where that is. I love it there.
Oh, it's a great spot.
So I didn't realize that you were coming from Sedona. It's magical there.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. My daughter's in Arizona, but she's in the hot part.
Oh yeah, down in Phoenix area.
Yeah. It's quite hot down there. Okay. Well, obviously you are highly successful. We're going to get into that, but let's go back in time. And have you always been in Arizona? Where did you kind of start your journey into nursing in particular?
Yeah, no, you can hear the Southern accent. Definitely not Arizona born. Born and raised in South Carolina. I actually went to a technical college out of high school and got my associate's degree in nursing. Cut my teeth in a trauma center there in South Carolina. And pretty much for the first 10 years or so, my wife and I just travel nursed and played. And it wasn't until about 10 years in that I went back to school and got my bachelor's in nursing, got a bachelor's in management, and I got my master's in business as I started kind of moving up the ranks of healthcare leadership all the way through, boardroom, COO.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So I was going to ask you that. So you decided to go into the management route first. Yeah. Is that what happened?
Well, first I decided to play.
First you decided to play.
We played first.
Yeah.
And honestly, so a little background past that maybe it's too much information. I don't know, but I don't come from a wealthy family. I come from a lower middle class maybe family in South Carolina. I was the first person in our family to ever get a bachelor's degree, and then first person to ever get a master's degree, first person to own a successful business. So it's there's been a lot of firsts, of I didn't come from money or success. Amazing family, wonderful, loving parents, and an amazing sister, just, not money and success. And so it was all kind of new to me. And when I decided to go back to school and get my bachelor's in nursing, bachelor's in management, and the MBA, I found that I had a passion for leading other people. I enjoyed nursing. I really loved bedside. But I also really enjoyed like when I would be charge nurse or what was called a patient
Yeah.
care supervisor. I kind of dug it, and people liked me in that role, and I was pretty good at it. So then just naturally I was eventually asked to be a manager, and went from manager to director, director to executive director, and then from executive director to COO, and then I was a national healthcare consultant, and basically just fly around the country in first class and going into hospitals and helping the executives fix the problems in the hospital. And that's where I, decided to leave to start my LNC firm.
Yeah, that's very interesting. We have a very similar path in the fact that I suppose I would call it playing, but it was I kind of took on those same roles where it was like it felt natural to lead, and then the next question was, do you want the charge position? Then it was the same thing. It was the charge and then director, and then
Yeah.
so I kind of went up the ranks the same way, but I did not go back to school.
Yeah.
I had my bachelor's in something else, and I just luckily managed to find my foot in the door for each leadership position. But I can relate to the fact that it felt natural to kind of lead. It was, I mean, there were things like, and I'm sure that you can relate to this in the early stages. There were little things like, you're talking to your employees and they're young and they're talking about their retirement, and you're kind of mentoring them into, make sure you're putting money in your 401k. I mean, there were things like that where it was just this natural thing. You wanted to be mom or what, but it was this natural leadership. And I remember those conversations vividly when I was young and I was mentoring younger nurses about life things. So when you said that, you naturally ended up in different leadership roles, I was like, wow, that's a flashback for me.
Well, and Anna, you talked about you didn't go and get the advanced degrees right away, but honestly, it's a lot like legal nurse consulting, where you had the skill, right? You knew what they needed to know. You already knew what they needed to know, and you had the skill. You didn't really need the degree because you were valuable, right? You added value to the hospital. You added value to your staff. And I think that's probably the biggest thing in legal nurse consulting. If you're adding value to your attorney clients, then you're going to get repeat work.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily need to be that, degree on the shelf,
Yeah, right.
Or even though it helps, having a few extra letters behind your name.
Especially if you're doing expert, that does help if you're doing expert.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you climbed the leadership ladder. What was your favorite? Because I mean, we're going to talk about the legal nursing stuff, but I really like to go back in time, and talk about like our experiences during those times, because we all are most that listen to this podcast are nurses. Some are just getting into this. Some are already into it. And some of them are even, attorneys and physicians that are listening to it. So they like to hear, the backstory. So when you were climbing that leadership ladder, was there a role that you enjoyed the best? I know, I know at the tail end, flying first class, you kind of can't deny how enjoyable that is.
Yeah.
But was there a role that you kind of look back at and go, I really, really enjoyed that one?
Yeah. Honestly, I always enjoyed every role that I had in nursing. I kind of I'm of the mentality that wherever you are, you make the best of that, right? And in some ways, that almost limited me because I wasn't looking outside of the traditional nursing roles initially. I had to get closer to burnout, honestly, before I really said, gosh, what else is out there? And then I didn't realize like how very valuable you are as a nurse as long as you're staying in that hospital context. But I really did. I enjoyed every role. I guess I learned so much and had so much failure that I was able to learn from. I think that's super important to learn from your failures. And looking back, I think, gosh, the one that was probably the most fun was charge nurse. I thought being a charge nurse was so fun. I loved it, the teamwork, the camaraderie. I was an emergency department charge nurse, and that was probably the most fun. But then I learned more in my executive roles, how to run business and such.
Yeah, for sure. I can totally relate to that. There were less responsibilities,
Yeah.
You know, when you go up, you end up in budget meetings and things
Yeah.
like that. So those are not quite as fun.
Not
But
quite as
like
fun.
you said, you learn how, I mean, I know for me, same thing. I learned how the hospital was a business. You understand the workflow outside of nursing. You understand
Yeah.
what capital is and things like that. And that was, it's priceless to be able to sit in those meetings. So I always say that it's kind of, the layered, your life resume, right? Your nursing
Yeah.
life resume is this layered bit of failures and, these little pieces of knowledge that you gain that now it's priceless. So
Yeah.
I love
And
hearing,
you,
when people have done that kind of climb up the ladder and then jump to the side. That's how I
yeah.
kind of visualize this,
Yeah.
is like jumping to the side here in the legal nurse world. So tell us a little bit about how you got into legal nursing at
Mm.
that point.
Yeah, I want to circle back on something else
Yeah.
that you said real quick. We talked a couple of times about failure, and just for your listeners, I want to give them this takeaway. It impacted me when I first heard it. That essentially, of course, you get two types of people in the world. Okay, I don't really buy into the two types of people, right? There's a bunch of types, but I think what separates people who are wildly successful, whether it's legal nursing, business ownership, life, from those who aren't, is the way you respond to failure.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who respond to failure by seeing it as a failure, as a barrier to succeed, as a barrier to move forward, and it just breaks them. They quit and they just sit down and cry, right? Which, hey, sitting down and crying sometimes isn't a bad
Yeah.
thing, but it's what you do after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if failure breaks you and makes you stop and quit moving forward, then it's going to be very, very difficult to be successful. And those who are most successful take failure as an opportunity to learn what doesn't work, right?
Totally.
So I'm not going to do that anymore, but I'm going to focus
Totally.
my attention on what does work.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that real quick, and then
Yeah,
get
I'm a
back to the question.
huge no, I love that you brought that in. I'm a huge proponent of, the more I think I've talked about this on the podcast once before, that one of these books up here, I think it's up there, is Go for No. It's like the more no's you get
Mm,
just gets you closer to yeses. So you're really embracing the failure. You're like, this is what I always say, I jump in with 2 feet.
yeah,
I did that with this podcast. Jump in with 2 feet, it could totally have failed, but I'm not afraid of that because it just gets me closer to the next thing. So I
sure.
am really glad that you brought that back up again, because I do think that embracing failure and seeing it as an opportunity versus, oh, I'm never going to succeed in this is really, really valuable. So yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
and
for.
that kind of feeds into the question you asked about
Mhm.
that jump sideways, more like
Mhm.
jump off the cliff almost. But
Right.
it was very, very scary. That was probably the scariest day of my life, was when I had to call my boss. I was at the top of my career,
Right.
making more money than I ever had,
Mhm.
respect. And
Mhm.
like I said, flying first class, and,
Right.
you're a little nursing rock star.
Mhm.
And then to quit that job and start a business that had no clients and no revenue and no foundation was really, really scary. And my wife actually wrote me a note that morning before Sheila headed off to work. And it was just on a sticky note. And it was what I needed. It said, "You can do this, jump."
Oh, I
That
love
was
it.
it.
I
And
love
that
it.
was what encouraged me enough to make that phone call. And you'll see this thing sitting behind me, actually.
Mhm.
It's a
Mhm.
mantra
I
as
saw
well.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That,
Yep. I
courage
love it. Yeah.
and courage. I like to say that, there is no courage without fear. Another way to say that is that courage always comes before confidence.
Mhm.
None of us are confident. You weren't confident necessarily when you started your podcast.
Nope.
You didn't know if it was going to bust,
Yep.
but you were courageous enough to take that
Right.
step. And
Yep.
that's really what it takes to step out
Totally.
of something that you're doing, the security, or at least the perceived security of a full-time nursing job, and start a business. It takes courage. You're not going to feel confident. It
Mhm.
takes a lot of courage. And then I think, having the tools or a pathway laid out to know what to do once you take that jump is super important. But there is no pathway that's going to get you there if you don't walk it.
Right. Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. So was there someone in your life that had shown you what legal nursing was? Was it something that you had just kind of seen show up? What did that look like? How did you even know that it existed?
Yeah, that's a great question because it is still sort of like feels a little fringish, like not a mainstream nursing job.
Right.
Is it even real? Is it a scam?
Right.
People still wonder that.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Now, not to say there's not people out there trying to scam you. There always are, but legal nursing as a field's not. For me, it was an interesting story. So back in 2017, I had a CNO friend of mine who was semi-retiring. She called up about 5 of the colleagues that she had worked with throughout her career that she trusted most, and luckily I made the short list. Yeah. And she said, "Hey, let's become legal nurse consultants." And I was like, "Oh, what? What is? Well, it sounds scary. I don't know if I want to do this or not." Yeah. And so she talked to us about it. And her plan was she was going to run the business. We would essentially subcontract for her, and we were all going to get rich and quit our jobs.
Right.
And we took one of the courses that's out there now still, paid a lot of money for it. And unfortunately, we didn't really get what we needed to know how to be successful. And even though there were 6 or 7 of us really smart, successful people that were trying to figure this out, to be honest, it kind of flopped. We didn't get a ton of cases. We didn't get a lot of repeat cases, and we didn't know why. But when I decided to jump, leave my job and do it full time, I basically said, I've got some knowledge from this course on what I think it should look like. I know it's not working, and I see the places that it's not working. I was bold enough to ask some of our attorneys what they'd like to see, and I knew I had, I had run multiple $100 million departments, and I had a master's in business, and I had lots of experience running, being a leader and running essentially businesses in the hospital. Yeah. So I took the leap with the confidence, or more so the courage, to know that I think I can do this, and I think I can figure it out. To be honest, I never had the intention of teaching other people how to do it when I started. I was just trying to figure it out myself.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people heard about it or how they walked into it, or, sometimes it's just, a friend that's an attorney that says, "Hey, can you look at this for me?" And then that opens their eyes to this. And I've heard all different stories about this. So I always like to hear how you discovered it, so going through finishing whatever that course was, and jumping into the role, you clearly, you knew that you weren't getting what you need, because you're a smart business person, and that, it was not just, I'm sure you were not looking to be, what is it, hand fed and, grabbing your, showing you the way, but really doing it for you. That's not what you were looking for. What made you kind of, step forward? And I know you said you obviously you had courage to do it. Did you already start working with attorneys? Did you already have your foot in the door? Did you already kind of get a taste of it? Is that what kind of kept you going?
Yeah, I had been doing it on the side. When the CNO came to me and we started that business, we thought we would all just get tons and tons of cases, and that didn't happen. But I did get some experience. Yeah. Unfortunately, looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, the work. I look at the work product that we were creating at the time, and I'm like, no wonder attorneys didn't use us anymore. We didn't know what we were doing. But I did get some experience in it. No, I didn't. The attorneys that we had worked with weren't any good to me as starting my business, because she was still running her business. Sure. And I certainly didn't, try to take any of the attorneys. And to be honest, none of them were giving us repeat cases anyway. Sure. So I literally started with 0. Yeah. And for me, it was a hard start, because, like I said, I had to figure out a lot. And my first 4 months, I had one attorney.
Right.
I remember 4 months in after I started my business, my total revenue was $500,
Yeah.
and I had quit my
Yeah.
job. So I'm like,
that is scary. Yeah.
you
No.
know, I
Yeah.
actually went to my wife. Now I quit my job, but we had saved up enough that if I didn't work for an entire year, if I made nothing, we'd be okay. We weren't eating
Right.
steak, but we could
Right.
survive on beans and
Right.
rice.
Right. Right.
And I went to my wife and said, I just made $500 in an entire month.
Right.
Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I
Right.
can't do this. And when I quit my job, we committed to a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do my darndest for a year. And I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
was beating bushes, man. And
Mm-hmm.
I almost quit. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not
Right.
quitting.
Right.
You're going to continue for a year. Now, if we
Right.
come back around a year and you're like, this isn't working, then fine. There's a million things you can do as a nurse.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Luckily, by the time we got to that year, though, it wasn't even a conversation. It was like,
Yeah.
hey, it's a year. She's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to quit at all, are you? And I was like, not
Yeah.
at all. No, this is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have some sort of breakthrough? Obviously, it helps tremendously to have that support. But was there something? Obviously, then you had your courage. You're gonna jump. You've got a year to do this. Um, did you have some sort of breakthrough where you were like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out, and then one day you wake up and you're like, aha, that's what was missing. Was that the case for you, or was it just kind of a bunch of things?
Yeah, it was a bunch of things. The way that I teach others and the way that I run my legal nurse consulting firm is very relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
So we have attorney clients, but a lot of my attorney clients ends up being friends, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we got their cell phone number and we chit chat, and
Yeah.
we have attorneys who would join us as a guest in Catalyst and in my
Yeah.
training program, on our weekly calls. And I think because I had formed a good relationship with my very first attorney,
Mm-hmm.
it was actually a funny story. I was so new to it, and this was like super embarrassing. I'm gonna share it with all your listeners. I don't know if I should, but so I'm brand new to this, and I keep saying this is it was a med mal defense case that I was working. It was my first case as a business owner, and I kept saying the prosecution, and he's like, this is 2 months into our relationship. He's like, Randy, you mind if I give you some feedback? I was like, no, of course not. He said, just so you know, prosecution is only in criminal cases. We don't call it prosecution, and I don't care, but I know
Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
starting your business. And if you say that to other attorneys, that might, hurt your reputation. And I was like, oh my gosh, what an idiot.
Yeah.
So I had to learn some of the stuff the hard way. Now, I will tell you, it was probably 2 or 3 weeks after I had that conversation with my wife about having $500 in an entire
Mm-hmm.
month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That week, like 2 or 3 weeks later, I got 3 cases.
Yeah.
And then it just started happening, like
Yeah.
multiple cases a week. And then all the attorneys that would use me would give me repeat business, which is something we never figured out in the other business before my business. And that was something I really put a lot of emphasis on, is having a work product that added value to them that kept them coming back.
Yeah.
So then after that, it starts compounding, right? You get 3, 4, 5 attorneys using you, and they're sending you multiple cases a month. And then you get 3, 4, 5 more, and now they're using you, sending you multiple cases a month.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you can blow up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely that compounding effect. It's just getting that. It's like the snowball effect. It's getting that snowball rolling. That seems to be the hardest thing.
Yes, that is the hardest thing.
We've talked about, okay, so we need courage, we need confidence, and we need the skill. And with the skill, that's where a lot of new nurses that want to jump in here, it's one of those things that freezes people up, right? Is
100%.
learning the skill. And then obviously being a perfectionist. A lot of us are perfectionists. Maybe we've been nurses for a long time, right? And you're learning something new. I know that with nursing, it's a really challenge to get nurses to do something new because they've kind of set in their role. So here we are. Oh, great. Now I have to learn a new skill. How the heck do I create a work product that's going to bring that's everything you said is what a new legal nurse would want, right? We would love to have to work with attorneys and for them to bring us cases. This is what we all want. But learning that skill, what would you say is that first step for legal nurses? Because like I said, I have a lot of listeners that are deciding to go down this path and they don't know where to start. Yeah. So you doing things on your own, essentially, I mean, you learned the skill from a course, but you really did things on your own. So for someone that's sitting there right now, that's like, okay, I want to do this. How do I get started? What would your best advice be to learn that skill?
Yeah, I do not recommend what I did.
Yeah, there you go. Number one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard way. You know, the truth is, nurses sometimes are surprised by the fact that you actually don't need any training, any education to be a legal nurse. It's not regulated by any state or federal body. So you can put LNC behind your name right now and be a legal nurse and start taking cases. But if, let's say that you were lucky enough to get that first client somehow, and they call you up and they're like, Anna, I've got a case for you. And you're like, oh, sweet, I got a case, right? And they go, this is a PI case, it's a UIM, got a low ceiling on the insurance, and the SOL is coming down fast, so I need a quick turnaround. Send me over your contract, your cost estimate, and a fee agreement, and let me know how fast you can get this back to me and how much it's going to cost me. And you're going, I don't know any of that, right? I don't know how to do any of that. Mm-hmm. So it's important to get, I think it's super duper important to find someone you can trust who's already been there, done that, who has a structured pathway laid out that you can walk to learn those things. Because you're right. I mean, you can be the best marketer, the most charismatic, and be amazing at marketing. But if you don't have a work product that's going to blow their socks off and add value to their case, they're not going to come back to you. Nobody wants to pay thousands of dollars for something that they could have had the paralegal do, or something that they could have offshored and gotten the same quality, or especially something that they never even read because it's not high quality work. Right. But if they look at your work product and they go, holy crap, this is way better than anything I could have ever done. And they're making $100,000, $500,000, sometimes millions more on their case because of the work you did. Yeah. Okay, I had to pay that guy $5,000. Who cares, right? It doesn't matter. So that's so important. And I think that honestly, the only way to do that is to find someone who's been there, done that, is successful, and is willing to pour into you to help support you along that way and teach you how to do it successfully.
Yeah. I think that obviously shaves off, the learning curve. It's like
crazy, right?
It's like anything. You can go and read a book and spend all of the time and spend years understanding what you're just saying, or you can take the shortcut.
Yeah, right. And I mean,
really connect with someone that already has that path, that can show you that path.
And if you spend money on that, because mentorship and training, that takes money, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people get hung up on that. But if you think of like, let's just throwing out numbers. Let's say it was a $10,000 startup. If you struggled through and you just were grinding your first year and you made $50K, you're like, oh, okay, $50K, at least I can eat off that. Whereas had you joined a program that was by someone you trust, who had been there, done that, could show you the way, and that first year you made $100K, right? You just saved $10,000 to lose $50. It doesn't make sense, right? So I think you're right. That learning curve being shortened can be extremely valuable.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that I know, based on just being in business for other things, I will say that nurses don't tend to not necessarily understand the value of spending the money on themselves. And it's not to their fault. It's just something that we're not used to. We went through nursing school and then we're making money, and investing in ourselves is just something that's foreign. And so it doesn't feel natural. But I agree with you 1,000%. Investing in yourself, you can't go wrong, really, if you find the right person.
That's the key.
Yeah, I know. I know. We laugh at this because we laugh for a reason. It's finding the right person is the key, and it's not, and it can be, who you connect with. There's not like one magical person, one magical unicorn person that is going to teach you everything that you need to learn, and you're going to connect with each other, and you're going to be on the same page.
Yeah.
The great thing about this is that there are enough people out there that are amazing at what they do. They're great mentors. They're great teachers. They have great work products. And if you connect with them, then they're the right person, right? And that's what I love about this community, is that it's not, this is the only person that you need to go to.
Yeah.
And I think in the old days, 20 years ago, there was only one person, I remember. And I used to get pamphlets every week. I'd get pamphlets. And it was kind of this running joke, was like, because I didn't know anything about legal nurses, but I remember that one person, and I assume that one person is the only person out there.
Yeah.
The great thing about that is that there are, everybody's done it a different way, and they're all successful in their own right. And there's not only one way to do it, but like we said, if you want to shave time off of your learning curve,
Yep.
then connect with that right person and ask the questions, jump in these communities and ask, and really stay connected with people. What I've seen quite a bit is that people will jump in the community and they'll introduce themselves as being, hey, I'm a nurse. I've been doing it for 15 years. I really want to check this out. Someone hire me
Yeah,
as a subcontractor, right? We see that all the time, and that's okay, because you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know the fact that you're doing that. You're brave enough to do it. I'm giving you credit for doing that. It's amazing. That's quite all right. But take it to the next level. If you see, and I'm going to give an example of this, if you see people talking in the community, or you see a name pop up often, or you see someone talking about this person often, or you find that their comments are very valuable, then don't be, just as you're not afraid to step in the group and say, hey, hire me, I'm willing and ready to learn. Connect with, message those people. Now, when I decided to do this podcast, nobody knew who the heck I was. I paid attention to who was talking, who was valuable, who was connecting with, who was genuinely nice. We talk about relationships. I'm a huge fan of relationships, and that's why I did this podcast, because the conversations and building good, amazing relationships with people is really, really important to me. So you see the people that you would love to connect with. Don't be afraid to message those people and say, hey, do you have any advice? How can I get started? Who did you go through? Do you, are you teaching? Are you not? Do you know of anyone? And this is one of the reasons why I created this document. It is not, I very clearly say I have not taken any of these courses, any of these mentorships, but these are the people that are recommended by the community at whole. And Randy is on this list, just so you guys know. But it's a quick, here's how to get started, do your own research. But my point is don't be shy and really reach out and connect with people. If you connect with Randy and what he's saying, and building relationships, and how he's learned the hard way, and how he wants to, shorten your learning curve, then reach out to Randy and say, hey, I that sounds amazing. Tell me how to do it. If that sounds like something that you don't connect with whoever you see, you see their comments or you see their posts, you go, oh my gosh, I always say, say this. I want to be you when I grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
I talk about certain LNCs. It's like, I want to be you when I grow up. If you find that person, if you see that person, reach out to that person and just say hello. None of us bite. We all want this community to be successful. We want each other to be successful. And I think the thing that I did not know or didn't understand in the beginning is just how valuable these relationships are. Not just because, I support you, you support me, we lift each other up, but we all have different skills, right? Yeah. I'm an OR nurse. You have an ER background. Someone else has an ICU background. Someone else has a PEDS background. And guess what? There's always someone that needs one of those backgrounds. So building those relationships and not being shy, even if you've never learned a speck of this skill, is going to be valuable in the long run. And the more that you stay connected with people, the more they're going to remember you. And I can say this, the blessing of having this podcast is that I get messages all the time from people and I love it. And then sometimes I forget who they are because it's just like they send the one message and then I don't remember, right? Just like the person that jumps in the community that says, hey, look at me, hire me. Not one person is going to remember you because you posted one time and we want to cheer you on and we're cheering you on, but nobody's going to remember you. So it's building those relationships. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. And by doing that, you'll be led in the right direction, right? You'll shorten that time frame because one of us will say, hey, Randy's got an amazing program. I think you should check it out. He's an amazing mentor. So that's I can't get off my soapbox about that. Well, no, you can see I'm a big fan of finding the right person for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think what you're saying is spot on. That you have to be active. You have to actively take control of your life. You're not going to wake up one morning and be like, wow, how did I ever get to running a $300,000 a year LNC firm? That's not going to accidentally happen. Success comes with hard work and intentionality. Totally. And, you mentioned community. In Catalyst, that's one of the things that we value most. Our community in Catalyst, and it's a private community, if you join Catalyst, but, over 100 nurses who are legal nurses from started today to running successful businesses. And to have all of those people around you supporting you, whether it's, in the Facebook groups or in a private community, it's so important to have that sort of support and encouragement, and sometimes a kick in the pants, when you're not working and you need a kick in the pants from somebody who cares about you. And I think that a lot of people get stuck, if not on the work product, on how to run a business.
Yeah.
And I think that's another huge thing that we focus on in Catalyst is how to be successful in your business in the context of that amazing community. So I think you're spot on that having others around you who are doing what you're doing, who are successful at it, who can help lead you and guide you is so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you want to sit out and float in space over here and do it on your own, that's okay. Nothing wrong with it. Plenty of people have done it. But this community is fantastic. And like I said, if it's not Randy, if it's someone else, and then it's someone else, just stay connected. That's just the best advice. And you will be led in the right direction, whether it's, Catalyst program or something else. But that's my biggest advice too, is just stay connected and listen to what people are saying out there. People want you to succeed. You can tell when people are genuinely want you to succeed. We, guiding you in the right direction. We're not going to send you in the wrong direction, because if you fail at this, it gives the whole community kind of a bad name. We all want nurses to succeed. It's not a competition. It's just really, It's like, how do we make this whole community of, something that we're really proud of? I don't know. I haven't been in the community for that long, and I know it's been around forever. But maybe this is a new leaf turned. I don't know. I hope that this has been the way things have been run, but I think everybody wins when you just, you're not afraid. We're all nurses. Stay connected. Okay, so we've mentioned the fact that you've got a Catalyst program, and you are, a highly recommended mentor. How can we find your program? How can we find you?
Yeah. So you can go to catalystcoachingandmentoring.com. That's my website. There's a free introductory training that you can watch that kind of tells you more about legal nursing in one spot than you can scour through the internet and find. It's literally like 14 minutes. And I'm just trying to quick hit some of the things that you might not know about legal nursing. After you watch that, you have an opportunity to watch the Catalyst framework and how Catalyst works, taking you from the basics to creating amazing work products to running a successful business and support, live group sessions, all of that. And then if you're like, man, Catalyst feels right to me, then you can book a call. But that's probably the best way, is to go through the catalystcoachingandmentoring.com website. You can also email me at support@Catalyst Coaching and Mentoring. And you mentioned something, Anna, that I want to circle back to just real quick. All different specialties, right? I did a lot of ED, I did a lot of ICU, a lot of executive leadership. We have nurses from every walk of nursing in Catalyst. And guys, I want to encourage you, whether you join Catalyst or not is honestly secondary to me, to you being successful as a legal nurse and changing your future, because legal nursing can truly change your future. And we have nurses who are, bedside peds nurses, OB nurses, med surg, ICU, ED, whatever. We also have people with advanced degrees. We have nurse practitioners and CNOs and executive directors. Anywhere you come from as a nurse, you can be a successful legal nurse if you have the courage to take the first steps, and you have the active participation that Anna was talking about, taking control of your own life, and then you have a pathway that you can walk to get you there. So I hope that you guys all join the masses that are moving into becoming successful legal nurses, and I really hope that everyone listening truly changes their life in the next year and looks back going, wow, I can't believe I am where I am today.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you spending your time with me, and I've loved this conversation. You're just, easy to talk to, and obviously we have a lot in common, and that makes it easy. But we both have one thing that we agree with, is just building these relationships, and staying connected in the community is very important. So I appreciate you staying connected, and I look forward to, the listeners reaching out to you, and I love watching your success. So congratulations on all of that.
And congratulations to you, Anna. Thank you so much. It's been my honor and pleasure to be on your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this fun conversation on the Limitless Legal Nurse Consulting podcast. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and empowering as I always do. And I hope that you share this episode with your friends. If you enjoyed it, I would love it if you could leave us a review or comment, as I would love to share them in the future episodes. Or hop on over into my DMs and send me a quick message. I can be found on Instagram at anna.b.gray, on my website at limitlesslnc.com, and over on LinkedIn at Anna Gray. And I want you to remember, you are limitless. Until next time.